Hello, everyone. GM. Welcome back to another episode of Overpriced JPEGs. And we are back for part 2 of the episode we began last week with the one and only Jon Rogers. Jon, thank you for coming back on Overpriced JPEGs.
Thanks for having me again. Week 2 in a row, GM.
Week 2, part 2. We promised it last time. We said, oh gosh, we haven't gotten to everything, so we're going to have to record a second episode. And here we are recording a second episode of part 2. We're going to get into all sorts of good stuff today.
I would say I actually am glad that we had to break this into 2 parts because there have been some late breaking news and announcements coming out of NFT NYC. Most conferences, big announcements are made the first 2 days of the conference. It seems in Web3, we like to make announcements on days 4 and 5 of our conferences. So it's good that we're able to kind of recap again.
It is. We will go through some of those later updates. There's some really interesting things happening on the hardware side of Web3 that I think it's important people be aware of, and we are going to break down. I don't think people have been paying enough attention to this. Doodles update, and then we will close here with a whole breakdown of what's happening in the Yuga ecosystem and what's going on with this lawsuit. Jon, I think you have done a lot of diligence on exactly what this lawsuit is, and we're gonna talk about it. Before we get to any of this, though, we are going to hear a word from our lovely sponsors.
Immutable X is the layer 2 platform for crypto gaming. Immutable offers massive scalability with up to 9,000 transactions per second and instant transaction confirmation. No more gas fees, no more waiting around for your transaction to clear. Immutable's zero knowledge rollup finally unlocks the world of crypto gaming. Immutable X is the only gas-free NFT minting platform with over 26 million NFTs minted, all with zero gas fees. With the power of Immutable, gaming developers don't also need to become smart contract developers. They just need to plug in to Immutable's API and instantly start unlocking the full potential of crypto assets inside of games. This is why world-class companies and projects have decided to deploy on Immutable X, like GameStop, Ember Sword, Planet Quest, Illuvium, TikTok, and many more behind the scenes. So start building your game on Immutable X today at immutable.com. COINSHIFT is a leading treasury management and infrastructure platform for DAOs and crypto businesses who need to manage their treasury operations. Every crypto org needs to manage their treasury, and COINSHIFT offers a simple, flexible, and efficient multi-chain treasury management platform built on top of the extremely secure Gnosis Safe. With COINSHIFT, your organization can go from primitive single-chain treasuries to expressive, flexible, multi-chain features such as global user management, global contracts, proposal management, and many other features that can be shared across an entire organization. COINSHIFT layers on powerful treasury management tools on top of the proven security of Gnosis Safe, allowing users to save time and reduce operational burdens and gas costs. COINSHIFT even has data tools like account reporting across the 7 chains on which it operates. Used by industry powerhouses such as Uniswap Grants, Balancer, Consensus, and Messari, COINSHIFT is speeding up the coordination and efficiency of the organizations that use it. In DeFi, you have to keep up with the frontier, and COINSHIFT makes that easy. So sign up at COINSHIFT.xyz/Bankless.
All right, Jon, when you're talking about new news coming out of NFT NYC, what are you thinking of?
Well, there are a couple things. There were announcements from Solana about a mobile phone and, more importantly, a software development kit for mobile devices, which I think is really important in terms of making Web3 a mobile experience. Well, we can talk a little bit more on that in a second. The other was an announcement from Feature regarding their streaming device, their streaming utility, which will bring Web3 to the couch, which is really, I think, for those of us focused on the entertainment, storytelling side of NFTs and Web3, a huge step forward when that comes.
Okay, this Feature thing, let's talk about this. We should say, for full disclosure, you are an advisor for Feature. I've had them on the show before. So we're both fans of Feature, but I'm, truly a fan out of being a fan. I have no stake in this horse other than I think they're doing stake in this horse? Is that? Well, whatever. We're going with that expression. Other than I think they're doing really interesting things. And I don't think this announcement has been getting enough attention. Can you really break down what this is? My understanding is it's like Roku for Web3, Web3 content.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Now, this is the very early days. It's a pre-announcement, so there's not a lot that I can say other than that. It is a streaming device. It is a device that you'll plug into your TV that will bring Web3 to the couch. You can stream content. Most importantly, it has an enhanced GPU to allow better graphics and engagement. But think about being able to connect your wallet to your TV and the things that you can do. Think about token gating. So if a filmmaker is making a movie financed on Web3, let's say with NFTs or with a DAO, and that film is streamed where The people who invested are able to stream it and watch it through this device. You can check the wallet, token gate it, and watch it. So it opens up a whole new possibility for and facilitating film financing. It opens up possibilities of facilitating film and entertainment distribution. It opens up new opportunities for communities, such as, say, Deadfellas or Bored Apes, to engage their community with content. So it's really an exciting step forward, and I'm hoping to share more soon.
And I will add my 2 cents to this, and then you can tell me if I've overstepped and we need to cut it out, because I also have met with the team in the past. And part of what excites me about this too is just that interactivity between phone and TV, and the ways you can imagine kind of upping the ante on your viewing experience if like you have NFTs at stake, for example, and like one of your NFTs could be connected to something that's happening on the screen as you're watching, and it could be impacting what's happening to the NFT in your wallet. And I think as we live in this adrenaline junkie, we need it to be more violent, more sexualized, more whatever. We need to keep upping the ante in our content to like get the same level of excitement. I feel like this just adds a whole new level of, I don't know, adrenaline rushes to the way our content could be experienced.
Precisely, that is possible. So imagine if you had let's say you're watching the Olympics and you had an NFT that represented each of the runners in the final 100-yard dash. And the runner who wins, your NFT is minted to your wallet. But if you have an NFT that represents a runner who's lost, it gets burned. Mm-hmm. So imagine there's a gambling aspect to that. Yeah. So that's certainly not a possibility, but it has to be legal wherever that's occurring. So it does open up all kinds of possibilities of interaction with the NFTs in the wallet. Or perhaps the NFTs can be updated based on an outcome of a sporting event or of a show, of a storyline. Or think about being able to pool your NFT as a part with other owners and create an object as a group, and that object becomes a part of the storytelling. But the next time you engage the content, a different group becomes a different object. And so it's a way to make that content interactive and customized to the viewer. And so all of this is possible.
And it feels like one of these things where I'm like hitting boomer status, where I'm like, I don't know, TV works fine for me, but I'm like aware of this generation coming up below me and beneath me for whom, I mean, they can't, it's like all they want to watch is TikToks. They can't handle anything that's longer than 30 seconds because it doesn't keep their attention. But if they had something at stake, if they're somehow interacting with it, if they can be on their phone while they're watching TV, which is what they want to do anyway, like it feels like a no-brainer. And there's a little bit of squinting to see the future here, in my opinion, which we see in all of the space. But like the future's getting closer. Like I'm squinting a little less as I hear about what they're thinking.
I mean, as you were saying that, I was just thinking, well, what if you mint your TikTok? So what if a TikTok, like a hit TikTok, Charlie D'Amato, I think she's one of the largest TikTokers. I can't pronounce
Charlie
her name.
D'Amelio, yeah.
Charlie. So I'm terrible with names. So imagine if Charlie decides to offer some of her hit TikTok videos as to be minted, and you can collect them. And creates economic opportunities there.
Which I think TikTok partnered with Immutable X, and they were doing like TikTok moments. So they were doing a certain level of like minting. TikTok's been somewhat on it with some of that, but yeah, like instantly, and you're watching it on your TV.
But I'm glad you brought that up, because think of it, that was actually fairly centralized. That was TikTok picking specific influencers to partner with, and then representing them almost like an agent to do that. But this is, imagine an opportunity where any TikTok influencer can do it, no matter how big you are. The possibilities are there. It's just, so now you're decentralizing it even further.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this, and this maybe like segues us to the Solana announcement that you mentioned, because that's also in sort of the hardware space. Like I really love that we're entering the phase of this technology where we're actually seeing like devices be built, and that takes it to a whole new level, in my opinion, beyond just the smart contracts and some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple things here with this. So first of all, they're clearly, their play and their intent is to go with more on the software to have it built into devices.
The are they SDKs or basically, yeah. Is it being built for Google in particular, or is it
Android?
It's for Android. That's what I thought. Yep.
Yeah, it's for Android. I think obviously Android has a much larger install base than iPhone does. I'm guessing like 80 to 20 perhaps might even be the ratio. So it's a bigger market. It's an easier market because Android is a more open platform. Imagine trying to get a Web3 platform through Apple's software review process. It's just not going to happen. So I think they're smart in focusing on Android to begin with. Very, very smart in that regard. Probably not a hard decision to make. And I think the reason to actually create a physical phone, because being a device manufacturer and trying to compete with Samsung and Apple and HTC, and it's never going to happen. So I think the phone is
this is an acquisition play, right?
I think
they're trying to like build technology that'll get acquired.
I don't know. I think it's more of an investment in the ecosystem. I think it's, if they can build this and get it adopted by the device manufacturers, it's a support and growth strategy for Solana blockchain. So, because the hardware business for them is not going to, it's going to be a loss leader. It's not going to be a profitable business for them. It's just a way to have a proof of concept to actually get devices in hands, let people play with it and experience it, and prove to the other device manufacturers you want to build with this software development kit.
So walk me through the point of them building hardware in the first place and not just building the software kit that can be plugged into their Android devices.
Yeah. My belief is that it's really a strategy to get adoption from an acceptance from the equipment from the hardware manufacturers. That trying to go around and pitch HTC or Samsung or any one of the Nothing phone, which was just announced, which is actually kind of cool. Going around and pitching these device manufacturers you want to build with this SDK and put Web3 into your phone is going to be a really hard sell. So I believe, just looking at it, that this is really a loss leader strategy to get devices out in the world, to show that it works, to show what's possible. And then once there's adoption from the Samsungs of the world or the HTCs, then I'm guessing they would step back from that hardware business. But I could be wrong. It could be that they want to start
Got it. It's just it's just to build credibility for them.
Yeah, exactly. It's the software development kit is.
I was thinking they were trying to build something that could get acquired down the line, but I'm totally with you that this is just about integrating the Solana ecosystem places. And I think it's really smart. I think they seem to be aware that there's a non-ideal mobile experience for people in Web3. I mean, I think they made some comment about like how you've got like friends on dates, like, or you've got like people on dates, like whipping out computers to mint NFTs, which I laughed at because I've told this story before, but like when I minted my VFriends, it corresponded with a brunch that I had to go to, a birthday brunch I had to go to. So I'm at this like birthday brunch with a bunch of like lovely women who are very like not into NFTs and like their sundresses, and I'm in the corner with my laptop, like, you know, whipping it out to mint my NFTs and looking like an idiot. So I resonated with that particular pain point that they were describing, and you know, really trying to build better experiences for people to be able to mint and interact mobily, which we desperately need.
Yeah, the very first NFT I tried to purchase was on the MetaMask mobile wallet, and I just didn't know. Be careful of minting on a mobile app. I was so new, and sure enough, it didn't work. Lost my money, not a lot. It was like $80 in gas or something like that. So I chalked it up as a learning investment, but never used a mobile app again on Web3. It'll come, and I think it has to go to mobile. There's so many devices in the world, especially in developing countries, that you only have a mobile device, that it has to go there for the adoption that we want. And it's just the technology needs to kind of catch up with the reality.
I also imagine that Apple will eventually get on board here. It struck me that I was hearkening back to a story that Justin Waldron, who was one of the co-founders of Zynga, told me, which was, you know, it was Zynga that convinced the App Store to allow in-app purchases, and that the App Store, you know, app developers were really opposed to like in-app purchases, and Zynga was proving the concept of like in-game purchases on Facebook through like, you know, their poker game and things. And when they turned it into an app version, they were the ones who finally persuaded Apple to give it a try, and it worked. And so I think Apple has this history of being sort of slow to adopt these things, but then ultimately will you know, get on board. So who knows what the catalyst will be here, but I do imagine Apple will play ball eventually and catch on with
I'm certain of it.
So
I'm certain of it. They will not be the early leader on it, but I'm certain of it.
They'll join in eventually. There's also, it seems like probably an international, a savvy international play here of just, I know like the mobile game market, for example, like on the game side is like super, internationally driven, globally speaking, people play a ton of mobile games, far more than we play just like here in the West or here in the United States. And you also, I think they mentioned this, Solana mentioned this in this announcement, or one of their spokespeople did, like just the number of people globally who use their mobile phones for everything. I mean, people's banking, I think Africa, there's a lot of banking that happens on mobile, and depositing, withdrawing, just transferring of funds. And so they're tapping into, I think, a huge way that people will end up using Web3 at the end of the day.
Yeah, I remember, can I riff on that for a second? I remember when I was working at Matter Labs, we were talking about layer twos and what the impact that layer twos could have in developing countries or in countries that don't really have a stable reserve currency or a stable government. In fact, when you look at the world population, 80% of the world population lives in a country that lacks either a stable currency or a reserve currency, a stable government. And so there were places where people, literally life and death is being on your mobile device and being able to move Bitcoin in that case across borders. So I imagine a phone built native to Web3 and with Web3 capabilities built in will be really attractive in developing nations, because you can acquire ETH or Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency, and you can move it across borders easier, and you can save it and protect it easier than, say, in your local banking system. And you have trust in it more than your government. So I think there's definitely a huge place for this, and I'm excited that a step forward has come.
Absolutely, totally agree. All right, bullish on hardware, happy it's happening. Let's talk these acquisitions. These announcements also came out. I know you were sort of putting some of these on my radar. eBay acquired KnownOrigin. eBay buys KnownOrigin. eBay acquired KnownOrigin, the NFT platform, and then Uniswap acquired Genie. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, well, I think the easier one, the simpler one to talk through is eBay. So let's start with that one. So two acquisitions, and I think the bigger take here is that acquisitions are coming. And a few months ago, OpenSea acquired Gem.xyz, which is another aggregator marketplace. So I think there's a couple things happening here. Activities picking up in the marketplace space, both with launches and with M&A activity. And I think there's a lot of excitement around these aggregator marketplaces, which actually all my purchasing is now on an aggregator marketplace for NFTs I'm looking at. And then eBay coming in. So let's begin with eBay. eBay coming in, it makes sense for them to be in the space. When it comes to digital marketplaces, they're the 800-pound gorilla. So it makes a lot of sense for them to move into the space. What's interesting here is that KnownOrigin was their acquisition target, because KnownOrigin is a curated marketplace. So it's not an open marketplace. So it's interesting they went for curated. Because I don't think that would necessarily work with eBay's model for a long term. So this might be more about acquiring the technology and then building something else on top of it. I don't know what you think about it.
Yeah, that's no, I agree. It seems ironic, like a marketplace that's like advantage has been sort of not being curational and has been anybody can come and sell their old used whatever on this marketplace. It feels deeply ironic that they would acquire a curated place in this space. So I'm with you. I think it's probably a technology play and acquiring the team play, and they may end up pivoting it in some capacity.
I also one last note on eBay. I also would think that for the current market, is the eBay brand really going to attract a lot of NFT buyers and sellers right now? And the answer is probably no. Now they'll keep the KnownOrigin brand on it, so that'll stay. But my guess is this is eBay taking a baby step into a future that is still 6 or 7 years to come. But they're taking their first steps, knowing that they have to start getting some learnings and some talent.
They have to do something. Yeah, it's. Yeah. If you're not paying attention, if you're not taking those baby steps, if you're not dipping your toe in, you're going to be doomed, so it's good they're doing something, and Yeah, I mean, I applaud them. I'm glad they're looking at the space. It seems like a no-brainer that they should be at least exploring it in a variety of ways. The Genie thing, I think this also feels like a no-brainer. I think it's interesting that it's Uniswap, which obviously tends to play more in just the DeFi token swapping space. So they're now dipping their toes into the NFT side of things. Aggregators haven't really worked in DeFi. Like there's been some attempts at that kind of thing, and it just doesn't make sense, again, when you're talking like fungible tokens. But these aggregators have been super popular and valuable, and just seeing a ton of, activity in the NFT and for the non-fungible side of things. So interesting play that you have Uniswap kind of dipping their toe and seeming to get into the NFT side of things.
Yeah, and I would add on the Uniswap, their reputation is stellar. It's got a great team. Their DeFi space is taking some bruising right now, but Uniswap is standing strong, and I think this is a good play for them, and the brand
it's
value,
really
the brand equity, their pedigree. Mm-hmm.
Somebody corrected me on this the other day, where I was like, it's really not DeFi that's taking a hit, it's CeFi, and maybe that's bleeding into DeFi a bit, but all the F ups are happening on the centralized finance side. And they're leveraging blockchain technology, but these are very centralized entities that are collapsing before our eyes and taking the ecosystem down with them. So DeFi is coming out looking pretty good on relative to their counterparts.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
Did you know that you can buy crypto directly on almost any blockchain using MetaMask? We all use MetaMask on Ethereum. But did you know you can buy all the popular assets across all the popular chains straight from the MetaMask mobile wallet? Did you know that you could do this from over 260 available regions? So now you know that MetaMask helps you buy over 90 cryptocurrencies using bank cards, credit cards, Apple Pay, Google Pay, for whenever you need some quick crypto, whether you're stranded without gas, or you just need that NFT, or you want to tinker with some new application. MetaMask saves you time and gas costs by buying your favorite crypto asset straight from the mobile wallet. So check it out at metamask.io/buy-crypto. There is a brand new staking feature in the Ledger Live app today. We all like staking the assets that we're bullish on, and now you can stake 7 different coins inside the Ledger Live app. Cosmos, Polkadot, Tron, Algorand, Tezos, Solana, and of course Ethereum. With Ledger Live, you can take money from your bank account, buy your most bullish crypto asset, and stake that asset to its network, all inside the Ledger Live app. Through a partnership with Figment, Ledger also lets you choose which validator you want to stake your assets with. And Ledger is running its own validating nodes, offering a convenient way to participate in network validation, and it even comes with slashing insurance. Ledger Live is truly becoming the battle station for the bankless world, so go download Ledger Live. If you have a Ledger already, you probably already have it, and get started securely staking your crypto assets.
All right.
HyperMint. Want to talk about
Doodles. Yeah, HyperMint Doodles. I feel like this is somewhat connected. You kick us off with HyperMint, and then I'll do my Doodles take.
All right. So HyperMint was announced during NFT NYC as a minting as a service business. They announced with launch partners, Fox, CAA, Universal, Death Row Records, which is Snoop, as some of their launch partners. And what they announced that their goal was, and this is what really caught my attention on it, was that they're trying to build a solution to, and I'm going to read this quote, building a solution for hundreds of millions of NFTs per day. Hundreds of millions of NFTs per day. And what got my attention there was a couple of things. First of all, having some studio partners in this launch gave me some hope that studios are now beginning to look at self-publishing as a way forward. Which is kind of, as I've argued in the past on this podcast, that really is the long-term solution. The ideal long-term play for the studios is self-publishing. Just you have more control, you have better outcome, better engagement with your community, more capture of the economics. Not to say there isn't a place for licensing too, but I think that self-publishing is where the action is going to be, and the studios are now beginning to take some steps there. The other part that got my attention about this announcement was that hundreds of millions of NFTs a day. Where can they build that? What blockchain has the throughput or the capability to do that right now? It definitely isn't Ethereum layer 1. And so what I'm wondering is if they're building as a layer 2 on Ethereum, or if they're building on maybe Solana or Flow. It's not clear yet, but I'm curious to hear more about where they're going to build that solution.
And this will totally take us into Doodles, because it seems like it's emerged that Doodles is going to be building on Flow, but we'll get to that in just a minute. I don't know if you mentioned this, but it's a MoonPay this is a MoonPay product. It's like a MoonPay minting solution. It's MoonPay who's partnered up with Fox and all these big players. And MoonPay, of course, has like been the buying solution. I use that in quotes because I'm about to say the buying solution for celebrities, though I think many of these celebrities haven't necessarily actually been paying for their own Bored Apes, for example. But MoonPay clearly has the Hollywood connects. And so they seem to have facilitated this set of partners to come in and build the solution. If you've been listening to this show, I think you've picked up on the fact that Jon has been pushing for self-publishing for a long time, but I will emphasize it because, he's been in my ear behind the scenes talking about this, just what a mistake it's been for so many of these big studios to license their content out and have their first foray into NFTs with these iconic intellectual properties like a Looney Tunes or, whatever, Star Trek or, on and on, be licensing agreements as opposed to agreements that the studios themselves own, where they really have full control over the NFTs. So sounds like somebody's been listening, Jon, and they're finally hearing you. You're not screaming into a void. Fox also had an interesting announcement while we're on this. The creator of Rick and Morty's, I forget his name, I don't know if you saw this, is they're launching an animated television series, or an animated series that's going to be have NFT blockchain tie-ins, and they're putting like $100 million behind it. This is Fox. So they're touting it as like the first. I think they're probably using some sort of like sneaky verbiage to claim that they're the first, because obviously you've had stoner cats and things. So I'm sure they're finding some little distinction to claim, but it's something like, we're the first animated blockchain, blah, blah, blah. So Fox is diving in.
Yeah. So a little bit on that. So Fox started up a group, it's kind of a joint venture is the way I'd characterize it, but I believe it is mostly controlled and owned by Fox, called Blockchain Creative Labs. And so they've done some work so far. They did some things with Dolly Parton, dipping their toe. Masked Singer was another project they launched. So kind of higher level, dipping their toe in the water. But it feels like this next project is where they're going to go deeper down the rabbit hole. And I believe Justin Roiland is the name of the creator at Rick and Morty, who they're partnering with. So it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to that, and I love Rick and Morty, so I'm looking forward to actually watching this new animation too. So I'll definitely be participating in the project.
The Rick and Morty animation style is so well suited for this like degen crowd, like the Creeps project, whose animation I don't love. Like there were people who loved Creeps NFTs, or who still love Creeps NFTs, because they love the art, and the art is very Rick and Morty to me. It's that, I feel like it leans male, it's very degen, and the Rick and Morty style of humor, and it's an incredibly intelligent show. I don't happen to love it, but like I respect the hell out of it, because I think it's I recognize that it's super smart. It does feel like it'll play very well with an NFT style crowd. So I'll be excited to see what happens there. Your dots are connecting for me when you say that Fox is behind Blockchain Creative Labs, that there was an NFT NYC event that they threw that, anyways, I was sort of aware of and interested in, and it's all coming together. Okay.
Yep.
Doodles,
exciting stuff with Doodles.
Moving to Flow. Yes, I don't know, exciting or not. So this is connected to this HyperMint piece, because again, Doodles has been very open for a while about the fact that they want to onboard millions of people into this space. They made it very clear during NFT NYC. Julian, their new CEO, during his presentation was very clear, like, we're trying to onboard millions of people into our ecosystem. And it's been weird because there was a thread that came out that said they were moving to Flow, though I have been trying to find like an official announcement from Doodles about that, and I can't find it.
I have also looked for that official announcement and have not found it either. I believe the information's correct, given the source of it, but I believe it may have been a little premature to saying that it was on Flow. But I don't know.
So this is a long thread by Degentraland on Twitter. We'll link to it below, really laying out essentially, I think, why he's bullish on Doodles, and saying that basically they're doing this like 3-pronged approach to an NFT brand. And phase 1 was to establish yourself as this really, fantastic blue chip Web3 brand. Phase 2 is onboarding of, yes, check to that first phase. Phase 2 is then onboarding millions of people into your ecosystem and into your fan base. And then step 3 is really monetizing that, intellectual property fandom that you've built out, et cetera, and creating like a top tier entertainment brand. Did I get those right? I don't have them in front of me, but I think that was his.
You got them perfectly right. So essentially step 1 done, step 2 starting, step 3 is to come. I suggest everyone read the chain. It's 57 tweets, but it's really good. He's very bullish. He claims he's good friends with the CEO of Doodles. So he's probably connected in some way, but not speaking.
So I couldn't tell if that was a joke, because he's like, my best friend Julian Holguin, or what, the now CEO of Doodles, and then later he says my second best friend Alexis Ohanian. So I couldn't tell if this was like tongue in cheek, and he was just like pretending he's like BFFs with all these people. I don't know if you have intel on who this person actually is, but it was sort of a funny.
All I know is he's an ex Goldman Sachs finance banker type who's now Web3 degen. So I don't know.
Who knows? So I have to say, I am not as excited about this as he is. So the premise that they need to onboard millions of people, and the premise that you should be bullish on Doodles, like I'm 100% on board with, because I think I have said this consistently, I think Doodles is the only project that has just consistently, I can't point to a misstep really, in my opinion, by Doodles. I think they have just executed pretty flawlessly up to this point. And I think he makes a point in here that was not really the central point of the whole piece and the whole thread, but that actually stood out to me as one of the better points, which is, Yuga Labs, which, obviously big rival in terms of the top blue chips, they're a little bit spread thin, like sort of fashion, sort of events, gaming. Like what really is sort of the heart of Yuga? I think it's hard to say. I think Doodles has been pretty consistent. That they're clearly like an entertainment company. They're clearly going for a Disney-like play where it's amazing IRL activations, experiences, and then it's media. And that's what they're building to be. And they clearly have the art and the IP to be mass appealing in that capacity, in that world.
Yeah, exactly. I think you got spot on that. Yuga is definitely stretched thin across a lot of places, and they just haven't declared like, what's our home? Where do we really want to build? Where Doodles has been more laser focused, might be a little bit of a stretch, but far more focused on, they want to be a media company. They want to be a media play. Spot, just perfect execution on all their IRL events, just brand activations. And I like that they've done brand activations that just aren't having big blowout parties with famous musicians and that spend our treasury on that they're actually having experiences at places like South by Southwest. So there's a lot there. Where they can go with it, entertainment, I have some questions. Artwork is beautiful. It's fun. It reminds me more of Hello Kitty, like seeing it develop like a Hello Kitty type brand than it does saying this is going to become the next great animated series on morning TV or on a streaming service like a Netflix. It could go there, but I think it's going to be more like a Hello Kitty just permeating pop culture kind of everywhere in fashion. And so I'll be curious to see how they develop it and where they take it. But yeah, definitely bullish on Doodles.
So I said bullish on Doodles, but then I clearly set that up to say that there was a caveat, because I said I wasn't as excited as Decentraland is here. So this is what I'll say on the other side. This is this great debate that we are all getting to watch play out in real time, which is what chain or chains are going to come out on top. And for a while, I feel like I had this view that was like, of course, we're going to live in an omni-chain world and there's going to be all these different chains. And I think, sure, like I don't think there's going to literally be one chain, but I'm entering a phase in my life where I'm actually a little bit more feeling like there's going to be a really dominant winner, and it'll probably be Ethereum, because I'm quite bullish on Ethereum's scaling solutions with layer 2s, layer 3s. I've been diving into the IMX ecosystem. I know you've been pretty deep in the ZK Sync, Matter Labs ecosystem in the past. So both of us, have dove into sort of the ZK rollup L2 stuff, and I'm quite bullish on that. I'm quite bullish on sharding. Decentraland makes a point here about why sharding is not good from a developer perspective, and again, there's more for me to learn on all of this. But I do think the network effects and fundamentally what that translates into, which is like liquidity that I think we're going to be able to get on Ethereum with L2s, is really, really powerful. And it then in turn makes me less bullish on some of these other chains. So to me, the question that these projects maybe need to ask themselves, or that I'm asking myself as I assess the landscape, is like, which do I think comes first, or which do I think comes easily, or which do I think is possible, which is that L2s develop really awesome onboarding and on-ramp experiences, more like what Flow has in terms of there being custodial options, in terms of there being the ability to use credit cards and have it feel really natural and native for maybe a non-Web3 person. Does that come first? Does that come more easily? Or does the ability for these other chains to like easily and securely, which is the big question, bridge to Ethereum, does that come more naturally or easily? Because it strikes me, this is the last piece I'll say, and then Jon, I'll get your reaction. Like if Doodles goes on to Flow, I totally understand the argument that they get, Top Shot on Flow onboarded 1 million users. Like clearly that is the leading chain when it comes to just wanting to optimize for, get a lot of new people to be able to use it because it's super consumer friendly. But what Doodles will then be doing is sort of bifurcating their ecosystems where they have like some of their ecosystem on Ethereum and they have some of their ecosystem on Flow, and they don't really talk to each other super easily. And there's been issues with Flow getting your funds out, for example, like, Flow's, there's challenges on the Flow side. And so is this a little bit premature? And they're doing this because they want to start rushing in their plan of getting all these new users on board. And so they need to use something like a Flow. Whereas if you just wait a little bit, this might be something that could happen on an L2 on Ethereum, the positive onboarding experience. And now you get to stay in the Ethereum ecosystem and leverage that liquidity and that talking to each other systems. Okay. Rant freaking over. Jon, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that they're trying to build for right now, and for them, they see that the easy custodial wallet, the easy onboarding, you can use a credit card on Flow, that is the better way to go. They're looking at those consumers who aren't yet in the space, and they're making their investment in that area. I long term am more bullish and on more the Ethereum layer 2 and layer 3 approach, just because of the liquidity that's on the chain, that it inherits the security of Ethereum layer 1. The tools, while they're not in existence currently, and that's the hard part, ZK Sync is just about to roll out what they call ZK Sync 2.0, which is really their mass user solution for layer 2. So it's not quite out yet. And so it's hard for a team that's developers to say, we need to build today, but what can we build on? I think we saw this with DYDX just announced that they're going to leave
to Cosmos. Yeah.
Moving to Cosmos, leaving Ethereum because just for what is offered today on the layer 2 is just doesn't solve their needs. And the feeling is that
I heard somebody's take on that. Anthony Cesano went on Bankless and said he thought that this was actually a preemptive regulatory move that DYDX was making, and that I don't know his logic entirely, but he was basically, I think they're being disingenuous. They're acting like they don't want to build on layer 2 because it's not as good for them as developers. But he was like, I actually think it's like a regulatory thing that they're doing to prevent like regulatory scrutiny or something along those lines. I know Bankless did a recent episode with the founder of DYDX. I haven't listened to it yet, but to kind of break down that move a little bit more. So you seem to share my belief in the long-term viability of Ethereum. Does that mean you think Doodles is making a mistake by going with Flow right now?
I mean, if I had, are you gonna put me in a corner and say I have to say yes or no?
Putting you in a corner, yeah. What's your gut level reaction? It's
not where I would go if I were a decision maker. I'm looking at the Palm chain just announced that they're, and this was one of the things at FTNYC that I saw, which didn't get much attention. I don't know if this is new news or old news, but the Palm chain is going to move to becoming an Ethereum layer 2.
Oh, wow.
So,
I wasn't tracking that.
Yeah, Palm chain is the home of Candy, which has the MLB license. It's the home of Nifty's, which has a Warner Brothers license. And it's the home of Palm NFT Studio, kind of a little confusing, but who also has a Warner Brothers license and a couple of others. So Palm moving over to Ethereum layer 2 is it's kind of like where we look at Vivi with on Ethereum layer 2 using the Stark X solution or Immutable X. So I think that's a good sign. Polygon is moving, and kind of this is what I call about building the ship while at sea from below the waterline. But Polygon is moving and transitioning to becoming an Ethereum layer 2 ZK rollup, which I think is
People think it already is. It's a side chain, folks. Polygon is a side chain, which means it does not inherit the security of Ethereum layer 1. And people like treat it like it's the same. And you're like, no, it's actually not. And look, I like Polygon, but it is building out their layer 2 solution so that it will be a proper layer 2 where it actually does inherit the Ethereum security.
Exactly. And the one thing so I'm looking at these chains that are kind of out there now moving over to becoming Ethereum layer 2s and that's got to be a technically impossible task to try to do, but they can do it. And I've talked with you about this privately, and I've talked to a lot of kind of some of my clients and other friends about this, but I have this theory, this hypothesis that we're about to enter a period that I call the ecosystem wars. And when I look at all of these different chains out there, Flow, Polygon, Ethereum, all looking to build and bring users and to bring eyeballs during a bear market, that it's going to become bloody. It's going to become a fight to try to get people to want to come to those chains. And how do you do that? Well, DeFi and CeFi isn't really doing it right now. So what does? Culture creators do. NFT creators, storytellers, artists brings those attention. And so when I talk about these ecosystem wars, my hypothesis is that we're going to start seeing teams bid on projects saying, hey, imagine Larva Labs, the original creators of CryptoPunks and Meebits. Imagine if they were to come out with their next project and say, okay, everyone, our next project is coming in 6 months. Would you like it on Polygon
Avalanche
or Flow or Avalanche? Or Ethereum won't play this game, but so which of you would like it and how much is it worth to you? I'm already aware of projects that are talking about going out and making those pitches, saying, hey, we've got this big project coming. This is what it is. We have pedigree, so we're a good team and we have good projects that have been successful. How much is it worth for us to build on Polygon? How much is it worth for us to build on Avalanche? And they're looking for a check. And so those ecosystem wars are about to happen. And I think...
Didn't Mila Kunis just announce that one of her projects is not going to be on Ethereum? It's going on to, like an alt layer 1?
Yeah, I believe it's called Armored Kingdom. It's going to an alt 1, layer 1. I forget the name of it right now. It's a smaller one. And it's a partnership with a studio of some kind out of India, developing amazing source of mythology and storytelling. So I think strategically partnering with partners in India and bringing that storytelling to the market is just an amazing place to be, an exciting place to be. Yeah. This clearly, to be in that place with that chain, that had to be we're going to invest in, we're the investors in this, and we're going to support this to get attention.
We as the chain are going to pay you. Yeah, I mean, you're describing basically these chains gasping for breath within this bear market. They're not getting the same. Their coins aren't worth nearly as much as they once were, and so they're native tokens. And the how are we going to save ourselves play is with the last, they still have millions of dollars, whatever, in their treasuries. And it's like, we're just going to pay people to come and hope that saves our chain. And some of these obviously will last and survive, and et cetera.
Yeah. I'll make an entertainment kind of comparison. Think of like when the film markets at a Toronto Film Festival or a Sundance Film Festival. Filmmakers will bring independent projects there. And then there's a market where studios will bid for the rights to that movie. And that's how actually Apple acquired their Academy Award-winning movie this year. I forget what the name of it was. But a lot of
what's going to bug me? Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It was a big deal that Apple became the first streaming to win the Academy Awards, and they were such a recent entrance into streaming.
Yeah, I should remember this. I think it was called Away. But anyhow, so these film markets occur, and they'll say, okay, we've got this film, who's going to bid on it? And the studios get in bidding wars of, we'll give you X dollars and X terms for that project. I believe that's what's about to happen with some of the better and bigger teams working in the space are about to get into those kinds of conversations with these chains.
When you mentioned to me earlier that Vitalik, I think, had tweeted at one point that it's going to be very hard to really effectively bridge different L1s together, that having a more seamless experience between an L2 and an L1, we're going to get there. That's pretty simple. But, bridging a Flow or an Avalanche or a Solana to an Ethereum really securely and seamlessly and whatever, that's going to be much more difficult, which, I'm not a dev myself, so I'm sort of reliant on the people that I trust. And Vitalik is one of those voices, which is why I end up feeling like it feels like it's going to be easier for layer 2s to solve the easy consumer onboarding problem than it is for other alt layer ones to solve their liquidity problem and to, share liquidity with Ethereum, for example, which is where still the vast majority of energy is. And I don't think that's going away.
That tweet came out about 4 months ago and got a lot of attention at the time.
Tweet.
Yep, I think that is an important tweet because I think that is true. I mean, to bring this back to full circle to Doodles, and since you put me in the corner of it's not what I would have done. What would I have done? I would have been looking at building a layer 3 on top of ZK Sync or Stark, and having a dedicated Doodles kind of app and experience and marketplace even. And knowing that
you've previously advocated for that for Disney on this podcast. You said Disney should fork ZK Sync, and I just did an interview with Robbie Ferguson, who's the CEO of IMX, and we talked a little bit about layer 3s. And so for folks who aren't aware, I think it is something to look into. I just think it's important if you own a bunch of Ethereum, if you own more Ethereum than you own of other, cryptocurrencies, which I do, like you should start understanding this stuff, because this is what you're betting on as the future is layer 3s, which will roll up to layer 2s, which will roll up and settle on Ethereum. And that's how this will scale. And that's how we'll get millions and hundreds of millions of NFTs traded on Ethereum. And so, which is where this does need to move to. So that high level thesis that Decentraland is laying out and Doodles, and it's like, I totally agree. That's where we want to move to. The question is, where do you do it? And do you do it on Flow, or do you do it on Ethereum? And I will say this, it may be telling that we haven't heard this from Doodles themselves yet. I know that Jordan apparently said in a Twitter space he would prefer to settle on Ethereum. So I don't think the Doodles team is very bright, like I think they're incredibly good at what they do. So I do trust if they're going to Flow, they have a plan and they understand the implication of it very fully. But it does run counter to sort of where my head is these days. Okay, we are going to break this second part into a 2-parter in and of itself. So coming hot on your feed right after this will be a Yuga Labs special, where it is Jon and I really breaking down our feelings around the Ryder Rips Bored Ape Yacht Club scandal, as well as breaking down the lawsuit that Bored Apes has filed. Thank you so much for listening here to this episode, and hopefully we'll see you at the next one. Have a great weekend, y'all.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Overpriced JPEGs. If you liked this conversation, if you liked this episode, please go ahead and hit subscribe. It helps me out, it helps the show out, and it means you will get alerts and updates when we post new content. Thanks again.